The New Lines Institute report on Tigray genocide is a replay of debunked claims. The New Lines Institute's 120-page report on the Ethiopia's Tigray war portrays the conflict as stemming from deep-seated tribal tensions, or what it termed entrenched competition between ethnic factions. Published on June 4, 2024, the account singles out Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed as the catalyst for the conflict, which broke out on November 4, 2020, purportedly in response to an attack on Ethiopian armed forces, though it swiftly dismisses this attack on the Northern Command as inconsequential in a footnote, citing Kjetil Tronvoll and Martin Plaut, downplaying or omitting the fact the Tigray People's Liberation Front (TPLF) instigated the war by attacking army bases on the Ethiopian National Defense Forces lays the foundations for manipulating the history and narrative of the entire conflict. The report then distills various accusations into their simplest forms to argue that the conflict was not about political power but rather a genocide against Tigrayans, advocating for the Ethiopia's leadership to face charges at the International Criminal Court. Predictably, the report largely ignores the fact TPLF was an ethnically exclusively political organization that presided over a brutal authoritarian system of government in Ethiopia from 1991 to 2018, and that the Tigray War was largely about this group's desperate attempt to come back to power again, after being ousted by a series of popular revolts from 2016 to 2018. Despite branding its findings as groundbreaking, the New Lines Institute acknowledges its study was primarily a desk-based research, summarizing previous reports from specialized NGOs, academic opinions, news articles, and blog posts. Upon closer inquiry, however, the sources cited for the report are the same ones that were so thoroughly scrutinized by Danish journalist Rasmus Sonderies in Getting Ethiopia Dead Wrong, a comprehensive examination revealing the mainstream media's detrimental misrepresentation of Ethiopia's 2020-2022 conflict, perpetuating the stereotypical single story of Africa as a continent of bestial animosity and genocide.
The conflict broke out as the consequence of a long series of disagreements, conflicts, difficulties between the government, the central government, and the government in Tigray, in Mekelle, the TPLF. There were a number of mistakes on both sides, a number of things that really pushed the conflict. It is clear that the TPLF did launch the initial attack in November on Ethiopian National Defense Forces. It is clear that the TPLF did launch the initial attack in November on Ethiopian National Defense Forces bases. It is clear that the TPLF did launch the initial attack in November on Ethiopian National Defense Forces bases.
While the likes of Tony Magana and Mirjam van Rysden are omitted from the report, others who know less distorted narrative of the war, including Martin Plaut, Kjetil Tronvoll, Alex de Waal, Jan Nissen, and Will Brown, are frequently cited. Notably absent, however, are accurate predictions by Professor Anne Fitzgerald and Bronwyn Bruton, whose perspectives are not even considered for rebuttal. This selective referencing raises questions about the report's objectivity, as it elevates certain experts while completely ignoring opposing viewpoints. Of particular concern is the timing of the report's release, coinciding with the TPLF's latest violation of the Pretoria Peace Agreement in order to reclaim lost territories Raya Alamata and Welkate, another name for the region referred to as West Tigray, in the report. While justifying this violent breach as resistance to genocide may prove challenging, a concerted media effort could potentially frame it as vindicated retaliation or an effort to restore justice. The New Lines Institute seems to be laying the foundations for exactly that, but trying to violently reclaim territory will only bring more suffering. Not to mention it foils ongoing talks between conflicting parties to amenably resolve the issue. Ethiopians have become familiar with such cynical publicity stunts, of positioning false narratives as cover for a war of aggression. It is as sinister as it gets and consistent with Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels' famed proclamation of, "Accuse your enemy of that which you are guilty of." Intriguingly, the Tigray genocide narrative first appeared within hours of the attack on the Northern Command, a fact signaling a coordinated and pre-prepared information operation. The ensuing war did claim the lives of many thousands, although the numbers frequently cited by media are overly exaggerated and cannot withstand introspection. Nevertheless, civilians did suffer tremendously, with all warring sides committing atrocities. Yet, it was a far cry from genocide. Little talked about by most Western accounts is the rampaging violence perpetrated by Tigray's insurgency regime in Amhara and Afar regions, as well as a barrage of missile strikes on Eritrea's capital Asmara. This period was documented in the timeline of the war published by Abren. The continued insistence on the Tigray genocide narrative in media discourse, despite its inaccuracies and misjudgments, is frustrating. Those perpetuating the story seem to enjoy unchecked access to mass communication channels, evading scrutiny of their errors. However, expecting these entities to self-reflect or apologize for their role in perpetuating falsehoods and fueling conflict is perhaps naive. Some may read this article, but genuine engagement in constructive dialogue seems unlikely, exemplified by instances like the economist Tom Gardner blocking dissenting voices on social media rather than engaging in substantive debate. It seems that those who got Ethiopia so wrong are doubling down, revealing the conscious complicity in trying to manipulate public opinion with unfounded tales.
የትግራይ ህዝብ ግልጽ የሆነ አደጋ ላይ መግባቱን በመገምገም ከውስጥም ከውጭም ከላይም ደግሞ በኢሳያስ አፈወርቂ በሁሉም አቅጣጫ
We came to the conclusion that the people of Tigray were in clear danger, and coupled with our realization that the conspiracy to crush Tigray from the south, from within, and from the north by Isaias Afwerki was reaching a critical point, we had to take swift action. This is why we worked with members of the Northern Command who were willing to collaborate with us and used force to overpower those who were not willing to work with us, in an effort to destabilize or demobilize them. The operation we undertook was a very quick one. Within 45 minutes, we were able to bring under our control the entire Northern Command, except for a few pockets of resistance here and there. The measures taken were in accordance with the internationally accepted concept of anticipatory self-defense. The basic principle of this concept allows small countries who believe that they are facing an imminent and clear attack from a larger power to launch a preemptive attack. This mechanism allows these smaller countries, when they believe that they will be crushed and destroyed, to launch a swift lightning attack on the larger force to cause disarray in the invading force and thwart the attack. This taking action before being attacked is referred to as anticipatory self-defense. It is a mechanism that gives you the right to launch a preemptive strike when you feel that you are facing certain attack. In Tigray, there was an Ethiopian army of 30,000, where Tigrayans constituted a major part of the chain of command of this force. When you have unitary forces intending to invade you from the south, and from the north you have Isaias Afwerki, and when these forces are planning a war on the people of Tigray, should the people just sit with folded arms and wait? No, they shouldn't. It was because of this that a lightning strike had to be carried out. If the lightning strike had not been taken, today Tigray would not be a region where we can sit here and discuss these things. Multitudes would have been killed, and there would have been a great deal of destruction. As stated, the dictatorial dream of Abiy would have been fulfilled, albeit temporarily. The Northern Command had about 70 to 80% of the military hardware, including the heavy artillery weapons and the firepower of the entire Ethiopian army. This strong Northern Command was destroyed by incorporating its existing members who wanted to join us peacefully. Our intention was to commandeer the weapons and firepower of the Northern Command for the benefit of the Tigray people. This was the first phase of the action, but things have moved on beyond that. We had worked the invading force into a frenzy by telling them that the Ethiopian army had been stabbed in the back and was told that now is a good opportunity to regain the land that it had lost to the TPLF. The invading force had been mobilized while in a state of shock, as there were some pockets of the Northern Command that had not yet been subdued. The army of Tigray firstly defended against an invading force from the south. Secondly, it carried out a mop-up operation in the Tigray region where, either through negotiations or the use of force, it had disarmed the pockets of the Ethiopian Northern Command that were still armed.
በሰላም አንዳንድ አካባቢዎችን በግጭት እንዲመክኑ እና የማጥራት እንቅስቃሴ ነው የተደረገው